Well, a very good afternoon and welcome to Falun. One or two tricks going on in the background to entertain a very sizable crowd that have turned out to watch the penultimate race of the season for the men. It's 15 kilometers, it's classic style, and it is all about Petter Northug at the moment, who is trying to seal the 2013 overall World Cup title. The men he's watching out for, Mike, are two pretty distinguished skiers.
They're very distinguished, but they have a disadvantage in their time margins behind. Of course, Legkov, he still believes he can win this, and Dario Cologna has said he's feeling tired, but he's hoping he'll get back into it today.
Well, just in case you were thinking that was a slow mass start, that was the four Laufers going out, just pressing in the start lanes. The athletes have yet to be called to the starting line here in Falun. Glorious spring conditions. It's absolutely tremendous. Well, let's discuss yesterday. Petter Northug, Mike, he was, what, 4 seconds adrift at the top of the climb when he went through 1.2 kilometers. And although we know he's quick on the downhill, and we said he can do some damage and he can catch that margin, I'm not sure I really believed it.
It's incredible what he can do. He did say that he paced it slightly back off maximum to the top of the big steep climb to save something for the end. But how can you take 8 seconds from the top of the hill to this finish line when the terrain is so, well, it's technically difficult, but physically easy?
Physically easy, but it just shows that if you are prepared to attack the downhills, and they're pretty tricky and pretty icy here in Falun at the moment, it can pay off. Well, there are the overall standings in the mini tour, as they call it, the World Cup final tour. 27 seconds, the margin that Northug had earned himself.
Classic. Who is the biggest danger, Alexander Legkov or Dario Cologna, or somebody else?
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking forward to see what Alexander Legkov is going to do. He was really strong in Holmenkollen, and I think he will try to attack there. So for me, I just have to be awake, see what Dario and Alexander is doing. So that's a good spot to have for me before the master race. So just try to be in front of the group and be careful and watch out.
There are many bonus seconds to be distributed. Will you go for all of them?
Yeah, if I have the opportunity, I will go for a bonus second, especially on the last one and at the finish. But I hope to get help from my brother and also the other Norwegian at the first one. So, and after that, we'll see what happens.
So the bonus seconds on the second and the fourth lap here today. That's what Petter Northug was talking about. And he says he's in a good position. He's got the ace of spades and all the trumps, Mike, with over a minute to play on Legkov and Cologna.
And interesting, he's going to bring the support of his brother in. Now, that's a good story. His brother, 7th ranked so far over the first 2 days. There's only got...
Well, welcome back to Falun. Just moments to go before the start of the men's 15K, and trying to work out what the likes of Legkov and Cologna have got to do to close down on Petter Northug. The Swedes will have their own little battle. Emil Jonsson still in 4th place in the Mini Tour. That's not bad for Emil. He, of course, will be hoping to push his position. He's 7th in the World Cup standings at the moment, Emil Jonsson, and he's got to gain a little on Chernusov. Now, Mike, we ought to consider who else might win today. Looking at 15K classics over the season, Viljanin's had some good results. Of course, Polteranin has looked fantastic for Kazakhstan, and Tim Shanker, of course, who won out in Canada, but that was a long time ago and half the field were missing. Let's have a look at the lap here. 3.3 kilometers the distance, 5 times round. Those 2 climbs, Mike, the first up to about 1 kilometer and the second one just before 2Ks. That, in fact, is the steeper of the hills.
It is the steepest. It only goes on for 100, 110 meters, but a decisive part of the track, in length, that is.
Yeah, the 5th time round, 100 meters will feel like 500. It will certainly be enough. And we've already seen in the women's race that if you put too much effort in early on, either in the the race or too much effort early on in each lap, you pay a heavy price on that climb. And I guess we're going to see a similar scenario working its way out here in the men's race.
There's a lot of risk for going too quick, too soon, but Legkov has made it so clear. He said there's only one thing. He said about his strategy, there's only one way he's going to deal with this, and go as fast as he possibly can throughout the race.
And Legkov starting there, number 22. They all start. It's a mass start today. So Legkov will have to try and make up for his deficit of 122. He's got to get all the bonus points. There are 45 seconds available for bonuses, 3 times 15 seconds. Belov going off further down. Alex Harvey, who's had a really disappointing season. I guess Alex will look at last year rather than this year and say, I raced too much. I did too much to get a good position in the World Cup standings too early on in his career. I hope the effects of that aren't long-term.
And Babikov as well, he's down in ranking terms. Well, he's 52nd. He's at the back of the pack. And Devon Kershaw, we know he had a number of setbacks this season, but the Canadians have not looked their best. They'll have to rebuild. And I think there can be a winning team at the Olympics, and that will be their aim for Russia, Sochi, next February.
33 for Italy, Federico Pellegrino, and of course the yellow bib belonging to Petter Northug, who will have the middle lane right at the front. And strangely enough for Dario Colonia, in the black of Switzerland, he's going to find himself on the second row. The man from Valmuster, who would dearly love to win the overall title, but it's looking increasingly hard for him. Now, what tactics will Northug employ? He says he's just got to keep an eye on Legkov and Colonia. I suspect if Polteranen or Vilicjanin go for a break, he'll try and match that as well. He's not the sort of man who will shy to a challenge.
No, and Northug realises that he has to try and stay with whatever is going to happen up there, and he is the grand master of viewing other people, of controlling or making the action happen up the front. But I think the rest of the pack and Legkov, Colonia, they're going to have to try and destroy him early, as we saw, I suppose, at the World Championships and the big races. If someone's brave enough to go out at an incredible pace, and I think that man could be Legkov.
Norway fairly well positioned. They've got the top 3 in the tour standings at the moment. Sergei Ustigov for Russia up the front, 5th position, 47 points adrift. And there is Thomas Northug, the younger of the two Northugs. Doesn't look much like his brother. His shoulders certainly aren't quite as broad, but give him time. He will be there. A couple of years ago, Petter really rated Johan, or Thomas, I should say, and we'll wait and see. Give him, what, 2 or 3 years? On their marks, 30 kilometers to race. 15 of those will be completed today. It's in the classic style. Everyone is on Clister yet again. No one's going to double pole this course, that is for sure.
And interestingly, in the women's race, it was only 10 kilometers, but without a doubt, Justina Kowalczyk, she's got incredible wax back up, but without a doubt, her Clister, her kick wax, grip wax, definitely came off her skis as the race went on. And of course, for the men, it's 15 kilometers.
So this is the last day of action for the Distance World Cup standings as well. Legkov leading that, and consequently he wears the red bib. You can pick him out in the middle of the field. No effort from Legkov to make up positions as yet, Mike. When's he going to do it? He has to get to the front at some stage.
I think he's going to try and do it early. It takes a little time for everyone to get their rhythm. We know this is a gentle climb. In fact, it's climbing all the way up to 2 kilometers practically. So I think it's just the saving of energy, because it is so difficult to get round, and then there's no way in. If you're an athlete in this column waiting, you can't get back in.
Emil Jonsson is the man setting the pace out the front. Northug on the front of the left-hand column. Number 5 is Ustigov leading the column second from the right for Russia. But Jonsson, I think, just enjoying the fact that he's leading the way up the hill. He's immensely popular, brilliant sprinter, so exciting, but he hasn't got a chance of winning this one today.
I would love him to prove you wrong.
I would love him to prove me wrong as well. That would, but you know, no, Mike, he's an animal over 1,500 meters. Make it 15,000. He's bound to struggle at some stage. Look at the beef on those thighs.
I think so. He did didn't do well. I know all the big names, some of the big names weren't out in Canmore, but of course Johnson did finish 9th that day. I think he was over a minute and a half behind, so yes, he certainly won't be one of the favourites to win this one.
So the first lap is really a free warm-up lap because no bonus points on offer. Northug will be happy to go as slow as they like. He's not fussed about that. It all plays into his hands. The more he can save for tomorrow, where he'll be hoping to get at least a 30-second lead over the rest of the field, the more he can save, the more his chances of being able to do that glory run up the home straight, shaking hands with all the spectators before he finally takes the Tour title.
Oh, he's got to be, there he is, third. But he's just so easy when it comes to moving out of tracks, moving ahead of people. Northug is the grand master when it comes to all those strategies.
He was on good form yesterday, wasn't he, Mike, after the race, talking about the fact that he's a fat skier. He says he's a fat boy, but he may weigh 83 kilos, but it's all bone or muscle. But it's a significant point because it means that he's capable of being quicker downhill than just about anyone else in the field, with his agility as well. But it means that when he comes off a downhill and onto the next uphill, he's got to take advantage of his speed and get as far up the hill before he has to put the work rate in, and he will not climb as quickly as the Colognes and Leghoffs, who weigh at least 10 kilos less.
And that is a huge factor, and I think that was a factor in the 50 kilometres at the World Championships, at the 50 kilometres last day, in fact a week today in Oslo, when you've got almost 2,000 metres of climb within that 50 kilometre. It doesn't always suit Northug, as it maybe does the lighter ones. And Johan Olsen, who's bib 48 today, the world champion over 50, much lighter framework. It's not opening up yet, Patrick. It's just everyone's just getting the stride, the feel.
Now, there may be one or two viewers who've never tried cross-country skiing. When you haven't skied for a while, Mike, and you go and do some classic, what muscle groups do you find get affected? What muscle groups are you using in cross-country skiing that you're not using when you're training at home, just running, cycling?
Well, in fact, I was out skiing last Monday up in the Cairngorms. My daughter, who hasn't skied for a couple of years, Marsha, she came out and she phoned me the next day. She said, "Oh, my legs," but she felt great. An hour and a half, it was the hamstrings and the inner legs, and also the main muscle groups, the quadriceps, and of course the triceps behind the bicep at the top of the arm.
And I was going to say, more than any other sport, it uses the heart, which is, of course, another muscle. And that, I guess, is why cross-country skiing is known as the toughest sport. And it's really because you're using so many major muscle groups at the same time. Well, there are the standings at 1.4. It doesn't mean a whole lot, but you can see that Thomas Northug is up there in the leaders. Petter Northug has not bothered to try and push the pace. Dario Colognes down in 17th place at the moment as we have a look at the replay of the start. No mistakes, no broken poles as far as I can see, and all very civilised.
Soon be gone up the front. Obviously this is earlier in the race, and a good chance to see the cut tracks. It's so the skis are over 2 meters long, and that just allows the tip of the ski to be guided in a straight line. Otherwise the skis will be flopping all over the place. Pace it slow, Patrick. Where's Leghoff? In fact, I think he's middle field. I thought he'd be working his way up.
Leghoff, of course, wearing the red bib, as we mentioned earlier on. I haven't seen it. Here they come to the first downhill. Now, this is where we might have a few incidents. That's one price you pay for going slowly. Round that left-hander, holding on. And then they have to prepare for the next climb. And this is where the pace may well pick up. And up the hill adjacent to Murderbacken, as it's known. This is fairly steep. I don't think there'll be any significant moves this time round. Next time they come to it, there might be a bid for the 15-second bonus seconds. Well, but for a lot of these guys, Mike, sorry, there's not a huge amount at stake at this time of the year.
Well, there's not. This is the best 50 in the world, and of course with the Junior World Championships brought in, invited to the World Cup final. So I mean, there is the status of where do you stand in the world of cross-country skiing. But yes, for those who are not challenging the big money or the big prizes,